Hello and welcome to the Purpose-Filled Life podcast. My name is Hala and I am a life coach and educator at HRS Life Coaching. My passion is helping Christian women to break free from the molds that other people have tried to put them in, to listen to God and gain a better understanding of who they uniquely were designed to be. In addition, I empower them to be boldly and courageously that woman. Every other week on the podcast, I share stories of individuals who have found the courage to be who God's made them to be. I hope that these interviews inspire you and empower you to be you. Today's episode is so much fun. I have such an awesome conversation with Cheryl Guidry. In addition to being a follower of Christ, Cheryl is also a mom, a wife, a grandma, and a transformation and breakthrough strategist. Cheryl is in a phase of life where she is just loving it, and that shines through in our conversation. Although Cheryl is in a place of joy in this season of her life, she shares some really deep and traumatic experiences that happened to her in her past, and how looking back on those times in her life, she's aware of the ways that God was with her, loving her through each of those moments. I know you are going to learn from Cheryl's experience today. You're going to learn about God. You're going to learn about what it means to have a relationship with Him. And you're going to learn about how to be truly authentically you, to thrive as who you were created to be. I cannot wait for you to listen and learn from Cheryl. Here is our interview. Hi, my name is Hala. As a professional life coach, I help women identify and put into action their values, passions, and talents so they can live the purpose-filled life God's already designed for them. Are you ready to live a purpose-filled life? Let's do this. Hey Cheryl, welcome to the Purpose-Filled Life podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. I'm so excited to chat with you. And we've had a few brief interactions, but for our listeners, can you just take a few minutes to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Cheryl Guidry, first and foremost, a beloved daughter of God. I am a transformation and breakthrough strategist. Next month, I will be a wife of 30 years. I have 3 kids, 2 beautiful, adorable grandkids. And I just love life. I love where I am and where God has brought me. And that's where I am right now.
Oh, awesome. Say a little more about that. I love hearing or asking people, what season of life are you in? How would you describe this season?
Well, this is a very interesting season for me because the baby of my bunch is about to leave us. He is graduating from high school and he will be going off to college 14 hours away. And I've been raising children for 34 years. So I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. And I recently uh, released a workbook, and hopefully that will, give me some things to do. And I have another memoir, teaching memoir coming out by the end of the year. So I'm trying to get myself together so I'm not the proverbial empty nester.
Mm-hmm. How would you like to be described? What title do you want to have rather than empty nester?
In the prime of my life.
Oh, I like it.
Sharing my love and light and wisdom and just creating, I like to say creating a movement. I want people to be, really focused and intentional about their relationship, the intimacy with God, and just helping them get to that intimacy because, we can go to church real quick every week and it not really make a difference in our lives. But I want to help people get intimate with God.
Yeah, starting a
Yeah.
movement. That is,
Yeah.
I got chills. That is powerful. I love
Yeah.
it. So say more. It sounds like one of the ways that you're kind of starting this movement is you have a workbook, and it sounds like a memoir coming out. Share a little bit about this workbook that you have.
Well, the workbook is entitled Arise to Shine 21 Days to Step into Your Purpose.
Mm,
I know a lot of people have talked to me about, I don't know my purpose and I don't know my purpose. And I am not one to say that there is one particular thing that you were created to do. I think your purpose evolves as you do. And I think that God gives us the liberty to choose what it is that we want to do, as long as we honor Him in everything that we do. So what I do is, and it was inspired by God. He actually gave me the framework and everything. Arise is an acronym, and actually, there's three sets of acronyms that God gave me. But for this particular workbook, we look at, um, assessing where you are, helping you become self-aware, and then we look at your values and your beliefs and things that shape who you are, and also we look at your identity, who you think you are, and then we compare it with who God thinks you are.
mm,
And oftentimes we find that there's a big chasm there. People think, well, they don't think as highly about themselves as God does.
mm,
So we help them in that area. And then we also look at celebrating them, celebrating yourself, the gifts that you have, the accomplishments that you've had, and even the missteps. We help find some gems in the missteps.
mm,
Um, and then we go on to the paradigm shift, where you get to decide um, how you move forward with your embracing your values and your beliefs and your limiting beliefs, seeing where that comes in, seeing how you communicate, whether it's to others or to yourself.
mm,
We oftentimes, are harder on ourselves than we are on others. So we kind of make some shifts in that area too,
mm.
because God tells us to love others as you love yourself. And so, yeah, we need to make some adjustments there sometimes.
Mm.
And then the last thing, we help you create the vision and mission and action steps to go along with um, the vision, inspired by your new outlook on life, your new outlook on yourself and your relationship with God. So yeah, it was a part of my journey, and God just helped me to frame it into a process or a system that I could help walk people through.
Oh, so much value in that workbook. Say more about your journey.
Um, I actually had some trauma in my childhood,
Mm,
and it actually caused me to think deeply
mm,
about life
mm,
and adult things, just pondering on life's big questions and big issues. And so I've been kind of coaching and helping people as far back as I can remember. And then I started hearing about this, thing called coaching. I was like, well, I do that. And really, God has given me a gift of discernment, and He just downloads things just all the time, and just making sure that I, I serve with compassion,
mm.
because if I'm not meeting people where they are, it's not effective. So yeah, I've actually one of the programs that I worked with, I worked with juvenile delinquents, and that was a tough bunch. Oh my. But I wanted so badly to help transform their lives.
Mm.
And I had to hold tight to God's hand to do that,
Mhm.
because most of those kids had lived a deeper life, or a tougher life than I did. And I didn't feel equipped to reach them. But
Mhm.
God taught me and showed me how to do it. And it was crazy because he had given me a dream or a vision of um, having a fine arts after school program so that kids could have a way to express themselves through art, all different kinds of art. I just didn't know it was going to be with teenagers who were already in the system. But, as followers of Christ, we say, "Here I am, Lord, send me." And we don't know where He's going to send us. So that was like some good training ground.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like it. So
Yeah.
you were able to do that program with them? Like, you did art with them and
We did. We wrote songs. We recorded one. We wrote plays. We did photography and arts and crafts, little projects and programs. And we put on programs for their families and the community. And yeah, we did a lot of that.
what helped you to know that this was a nudge from God to go? And like when you said, "Here am I, send me," how did you know that that was where God wanted you to be in that time?
He's he has such a sense of humor. My daughter was graduating from high school, and she had won an opportunity to cheer in London at Buckingham Palace for the New Year's Day parade.
Wow.
And a friend of mine that I would sing for some of her events, she asked if, I was raising money to send our daughter off to London, and she said, "Well, you need to go with her." And I was like, "I can't do that." She said, "Yes, that's your graduation present," because I was actually a teen mom and I graduated pregnant.
Mm.
And I had gone to school part time and full time. And finally, 18 years later, my daughter was graduating, and so was I. She walked across stage with me, and I was walking with her.
Oh.
So the friend sponsored my trip to London. And when I got back, she said, "Well, what are you going to do with yourself now that you've graduated?" And I told her about the vision, and she said, "I have the perfect program for you." She had done a lot of work with at risk youth, and how could I tell her no? She had just been so generous. It was
Oh,
interesting. But I
it
loved it. Oh my gosh, I loved it. And really, and I'm not afraid of many things, but I was kind of scared of that one
mm,
because I didn't want to do any damage to already, struggling
mm,
kids.
mhm.
And the first person that I addressed during our first activity, I asked her to take part in the activity, and she just stared back at me and wouldn't say anything. And I wanted to leave. I wanted to pick up all of my things and just walk out. And God said, "Are you going to abandon them?"
Wow.
And so I moved on to the rest of the kids. And by the time we finished, she raised her hand and said, "I'm ready now." And so that was to me God's wink saying, "See, I got you."
Mm, mm,
And the program grew and grew. We did it for 3 years. And It was truly amazing. I saw a lot of growth in those kids, and it made me feel like I was living my purpose for the moment because they you could see them light up. Um, people didn't expect them to stick with it,
Mm,
but they did. They showed up, and they really um, they did the work.
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
yeah,
So cool. What a unique, interesting part of your story. So cool.
yeah.
And even when you were sharing about your daughter walking across the stage together 2 times, that made me a little emotional. So thank you for sharing these two pieces about who you are and what you've been able to accomplish. And it sounds like kind of in both of those moments, you felt like you were living on purpose. Are,
Absolutely.
have there been more moments since that art program that you did that you felt on purpose as well?
Oh, all the time. When I left there, I actually uh, did a full-time overtime volunteer project at it was our local YMCA at the time. I just felt that the shape of the building and the morale wasn't too good, and I said, we can help as volunteers, just as community people. Let's get with it. And I created this huge program or step by step plan. This is what we need to spruce up the outdoors, paint the inside, and get some t-shirts for the staff. And, I went to the board and, just presented my ideas, and we had the city council behind us and the local church leaders and all of the social and civic organizations just come together and try to revitalize the YMCA,
Mm,
and that worked, but they had deeper issues and had to close. So, of course, I had to step in and say, well, hey, since we all pulled together to, you know, revitalize it, let's open it back up. And I did that for about 3 years.
amazing.
So, yeah, and we did almost some of this. Well, we did a lot of the same things that the YMCA did. We had the little league sports. We had music classes. We had sewing classes. We rented out some of the spaces to a veterans program, and yeah, we had a little bookstore. It was just amazing. I was just on assignment.
I was gonna say God has used you in so many amazing ways already. So much
Really
impact.
has.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And share a little bit more about kind of this new season that you're entering, the prime of your life season, and your desire to help others to pursue their purpose. What makes that important to you?
Well, there was um okay. Um I as a child didn't feel like I fit in.
Mm,
I didn't look like anybody in my family. I didn't act like anybody in my family. They were nice and reserved and quiet and I wasn't. And so I just didn't feel like I belonged.
mm,
And that sent me on a quest, um, asking questions. And uh, I I was an angry um, teenager. I mean, as far back as I could remember, I was just very angry. My mom married when I was 5, I think, and I had asked her when I was even younger, who's my dad? And she said, God is your dad. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, in the flesh, who's. So I couldn't settle for that answer. And I was constantly asking. And when she married, that she said that was my dad. And I believed it because he loved me. But I just didn't, something just wasn't, settled with me.
Mhm.
And I found um, out at the age of 30 that it wasn't a consensual situation on the night that I was conceived. And my mother withheld the truth from me because she didn't want me searching for this stranger that she didn't even know. Um, so I know what it feels like to feel. Um, so both my mom and I had a secret. I didn't tell her about my trauma, and she didn't tell me about hers. So we had a very contentious relationship. She was a very loving and warm person, and I just couldn't receive it because I had expectations, and her withholding that information to me meant that she didn't love me. She loved she loved people, but that was like a condition. Well, if you love me, you would tell me. And honestly, I believe that God withheld it because I couldn't handle the truth, at
Mm.
the full truth, and so I believe that she made sacrifices for me, and then I was rebellious, and
Mhm.
she still loved me, and she still poured all that she could into me. And I believe I was created for a purpose.
Mhm.
Um, and that is because the greatest day of my life was when I realized that I was forgiven,
Mm.
that I was loved unconditionally.
Mm.
And I was 30 when that happened. Um, I was in my shower and I was frustrated. This was after, just after I tried everything, lots of things to fill the void. I was in church. I was, in choir, and I believed in God, but I thought that He was so disappointed in me that there couldn't be an intimacy that I had longed for, and I wanted to know who my dad was. And the day that I surrendered my heart to him in that shower, I said, okay. I didn't say it like the script.
You said it like you
Right.
personalized it. Yes.
Yes. Said, okay, it's your turn. I've messed it up long enough. It's your turn. I know you. I know you've been, pursuing me for a long time. I have your way in me, oh God. And I heard him say, I am your father, the father that you've been looking for your entire life. And at that moment, it was like a rushing peace came over me. And all I wanted to do was read the Word of God and learn more about Him, because all I had done was scratch the surface. I mean, I did believe as much as I could. And I know that there are a lot of people that do the same thing, I felt unworthy. And I hear a lot of people say that. Um, Whether they say it out loud or, you can just tell how they operate. Um, and I want people to know the unconditional love of God. I want them to know what a practical, intimate relationship with Him looks like, not a church Sunday thing, a Bible study thing, but an everyday journey with God living inside you is like. I really want them to experience that. I want to tell the world. I want to create an awareness of the people who do know that. It's like, y'all, this is not something we need to be silent about at all. We need to help them understand we're not just trying to get them saved so they can, add to the numbers in the kingdom, but to live here on earth filled with the Holy Spirit and making a difference, shining God's light and love here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, did I answer your question?
Man, you sure did. Let's get you on a stage, girl. Oh my gosh. Get you a mic. That was such a powerful testimony. And I know even just people who listen to this are going to just be drawn to that. I feel like it's a moment where people can say, oh, I'm not alone. I think there's so many people, women in particular, who feel that unworthiness and who feel that, I don't belong here or there's something wrong with me. Those thoughts are just so frequent in so many of our minds. And we need to hear the vulnerable stories of others and how their lives have been changed. And when you talk about having that intimate relationship with God, not just the Sunday, going to church on Sundays or maybe just going to church for the holidays,
Right.
say more about that intimate relationship. What does that look like?
Well, like I said before, going to church was a requirement. It was something that we had to do. And I enjoyed it, but only for the moment.
Mm.
When I would think about disappointing God, the things that were happening to me that were outside of my control, I still felt were my fault.
Mm.
Um, and I felt that if I told anyone, and I know, it was told to me, don't tell anybody, this is our little secret. But like I said, I was bold and courageous, but I felt like if I told anyone, they would blame me for it.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm gonna just keep that to myself, and I struggled with that for a long time because of my anger with my mom, for not telling me the truth.
Mm.
I felt that I couldn't trust her enough to tell her. And I did have, a couple of teachers that I trusted, but I just couldn't figure out. And I was really trying to figure out what would happen
Mm.
after I told. I started thinking, well, they get in trouble. My dad would try to kill them and he'd get in trouble. And I was thinking about all of these things as a child.
Mm.
And I just felt alone. So, I would ask God, well, why are you letting these things happen to me? Well, what's wrong with them? Why are they doing that? I was really concerned about everybody else, but not so much about me. I took on the guilt.
Mm.
And then my mind went into protective mode, and it was like, if you can't beat them, join them. And I became promiscuous. And with every encounter, it was more guilt and more shame just built up on top of one. And it was just this avalanche of stuff, I had a escape. I would talk on the phone all of the time. I would talk to my friends about anything and everything. And I would get in trouble all the time. I would sneak on the phone, but it was still escaping, trying to escape my thoughts.
Mm.
And um, I don't know. It I hear a lot of people with the same types of stories. Their escape might have been different. Um, I would drink, not a whole lot, but I would use that as a way to forget. Um, I sang, so I sang in bands and would sing in at weddings and wedding receptions and at the club, and and this was when I had a family, and I'm out late at night, and there's not a whole lot of good things happening late at night. And so yeah, I got into a lot of things that didn't stand for what I wanted. I
Mm.
wanted freedom. I wanted to be free from the hurt and pain, but I was headed in the wrong or the other direction.
Mm.
And I really didn't think that God wanted to spend time, like real time with me. How could He? Because I've disappointed Him so many times. And I found out that that's not true at all. He knew my thoughts, not even the stuff that I did, not just the stuff that I did, but He knew my thoughts. And He still loved me.
Mm.
Girl, that's something that everybody needs to know.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. And that's the intimacy, is no matter what we do, he still loves us. And
yeah.
it's crazy. It's absolutely absurd. And earlier you said, um, we first have to, or we have to love others just as we love ourselves. How has your relationship with other people changed since learning to allow God to love you and learning to love yourself?
By leaps and bounds. Um, I was loved by those outside. I was loved by those inside too, but it was more of they had to tolerate me a lot more than the outsiders, because I was a tough cookie. I was angry. I had a lot of unforgiveness. And if you let me down, you're going to hear about it. And I was loud. And, my husband is the total opposite. He's a lot quieter and doesn't say much. Um, So yeah, for the first 20 years of our marriage, it was kind of rocky. Yeah. And my mom has passed on, but for the last 3 years of her life, we had a beautiful relationship.
Mm.
Um, like I said, I loved her as much as I could, and she never stopped loving me, but there was always a wall. Um, but she saw the changes in me and appreciated them and celebrated them. And my children, they get the better parts of me now. And I wasn't horrible, but I was tough. I was tough. I was more tough than love. I was a tough love kind of person, but it was, oh my goodness, you know, mom so much. And I was, because I was carrying so much. And we don't often realize the effects that our pain, or the reach that our pain has.
Mhm.
Because we could say that we'll put on this mask, but it's oozing out of your words, out of the things that you do. Even if you're not showing up for something, you know yeah, I loved singing, and some singing opportunities were great, but 3 nights a week, mm, not a very responsible mother or wife. So yeah, again, I was just trying to survive
Mm.
and finding um, alternatives to the way God, the way that would honor God.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you talked about kind of purpose, what you know of it now is using your gifts and talents to honor God. You know,
Mhm.
you might have different purposes throughout different seasons. Knowing that now, if you ran into your old self, what would that be like?
Um, I kind of do run into my old self often,
Mm.
um, and I talk to them like I would wished that someone could have talked to me. Um, I did have, people who loved me and would give me advice, but it kind of just stuck at the surface. And I have this special way of disarming. I can't even put into words how, what it is. But God gives me just the right words and just the right way to say it. And I was actually sharing with a friend the other day. She said, "Oh my goodness, you have such a soft way of dealing with some, hard issues." And tears welled up in me and I said, the little girl who went through so much, that had to happen for this heart to be where it is now. And God gave me the compassion for people who struggle with lots of things, with trauma, with grief, with painful, abuse of all sorts, emotional, sexual, mental, physical. And because we have a way of not dealing with it in a healthy way, and I just address them from their point of pain, and hey, I've been there,
Mm.
and a lot of people now they see me as Sister Guidry, and it's like, yeah, but Sister Guidry has a past. And they really appreciate my transparency. Because people don't know your story if you don't share it with them.
Mhm.
And I don't have a problem sharing it with them because it is my testimony.
Mhm.
It is the testimony of how God took me from the bottom of, ugh, and he actually showed me this picture of a dumpster, and he was just pulling back all of the trash, digging for me. And I share that with people because I want them to know he's doing the same for you. He keeps showing up, I'm sure. And I take them back. I try to ask them, think about a time when that you couldn't have gotten out of that trouble had it not been for God. You may not know that you're his child, but you are. And it's like they're hearing it for the first time, because whether it was the fire and brimstone that they heard from the pulpit or just the guilt and shame that filtered the truth, many people are struggling with feeling worthy of God's love, feeling worthy of his forgiveness. And, if they really dig into the stories in the Bible, they would see that they're not alone. I often say, what if God created a sequel to the Bible? and used our lives.
Please don't, God. Please don't.
Whew, yeah, but they probably didn't know they were going to be used in the story either.
So true. So true. Yeah, it's such a good point because, and I'm kind of going through the Bible, I guess for kind of the first time. I've read it all in like bits and pieces, but this is the first time I'm like really sitting down and being intentional about the stories.
Yeah.
And not just like skimming through the Old Testament stories, but really doing my best to just read like a chapter and really think about it. And like, that was a real person. That story, what they went through was real. Those choices they made were real. Those mistakes they made were real.
Yes.
And we forget that. We get very isolated in our own situations, kind of like what you're saying, and we feel alone. We feel like we're the only ones. And the Bible is such a cool book, I suppose, but obviously it's so much more than a book. But it's just such a great example of when you're feeling alone, you can skim through those pages and recognize, like, no, you're not.
Not at all.
And you, my friend, are going to start this movement. I feel it already moving. Just in your passion, your power, your confidence, your love just exudes. And I can't wait to kind of see you begin this or continue this, really, is what it is. And, how can we join? I guess, how can we like support you for people who are listening in who are like, I'm with Cheryl? How can we be supportive of this? How can we find you? How can we join this movement?
Well, you can reach out to me on Facebook, Cheryl Guidry. I have a couple of Facebook groups that I'm trying to put together. I am very low tech, so I'm kind of pulling that all together. But I started a Rise to Shine group. I just have to figure out which one it is. But yeah, reach out to me on Facebook, or you can email me at Cheryl at signaturelifesolutions with an S.com. And yeah, I'm not sure about the Twitter and Instagram and all of that. But yeah, Facebook is probably the best way. DM me and we'll connect, because somebody out there is going to help me get all of this stuff together.
Yes. For sure. And I'll make sure in like our show notes that I link to your Facebook, your individual or your personal Facebook. And then once you have the group ready, we'll make sure that that's linked as well, so that people can join. So
awesome.
Well, Cheryl, the last question I like asking people is, what is a dream that you have? And you've shared so much about what this season is, kind of sounds like a dream come true, or you're stepping into that dream. Is there more to it, or more you'd like to share with us about a dream that you have?
Well, I would love to see my first goal is to reach 1,000 women. And will reach them and empower them to change the way they connect with God, the way they show up in their lives, build their confidence, build their boldness, help them understand that this gift of life is to be shared, not just with, because we're really good at being, good moms and good wives, but there's so much more to it.
Mm.
The reach, and I say 1,000 because I believe that the ripple effect would be millions, because as you affect your home, as you affect your community, as your children go out and create their own families and connect with their friends, what you've instilled in them will create the legacy, the thing that people say about your life, the monumental life that you have. And I know even for my mom, she didn't understand the reach that she had. It's like, Mom, all the thousands and thousands of people that I've interacted with, it started with you. And it was hard for her to wrap her mind around that. And I just want that to not be the case with the people that, we connect with. I want them to know how important and how special they are. I tell people all the time, oh my gosh, I have met some amazing people, and many of them are, just leaders at high levels, but they're no more amazing than you. And they look at me like, what are you saying? They just know more people. That's all. That's it. You are amazing, and you've been given gifts that God wants to put in on platforms, in places to make a difference. This world would be different if we were standing and taking our places. So what I say is, I want people to arise, stand up, show up, and shine.
So good. I have chills. I'm so excited. And you and I need to keep in touch because we have such similar passions and such similar desires to empower people. And I am just so thrilled to have met you, to connect with you, and to have given you an opportunity to just share this dream that you have and this vision that you have. And I feel like you're going to change the world. It's great.
So much. We sure are. That's what we're created to do. Yes.
Yes,
Change makers.
Change makers for sure. I love it. All right, awesome. Thank you, Cheryl, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in. I'd love to hear what you learned from this episode, so feel free to shoot me a message or leave me a comment. And don't forget to subscribe for more tools to live a purpose-filled life.